This is a series of lectures on racism in special ed world. This one focuses on the school to prison pipeline. Little disclaimer there, you can stop and read if you wish. These are the resources primarily used for this, although I used a whole bunch of other ones. So let's take a look. Black students do not commit more discipline offenses than their white peers, yet they receive more school discipline and longer, harsher school punishments. Now, students of color receiving special ed services often receive harsher punishment than white students in special ed services. Black students with disabilities have higher rates of exclusionary discipline than white students. That means they are not in the school. They're expelled from the classroom or the school. National average, black students lost 77 more instructional days than white students. You cannot learn if you're not in the schools. This disrupts learning and places students more at risk. High rates of exclusionary discipline negatively impacts all school outcomes, including lower test scores, negatively impacts classroom engagement and cohesion, and students are not given the tools necessary to work through the issues that cause the negative behavior in the first place. You see nothing like a good graph. School district suspension rates by black students and white students. Differences. 5 school districts. Disciplinary removal of students with disabilities by race. These are students with disabilities. Percentage. Problematic. States with the 5 largest disparity in lost instructional time. Nevada. Black-white difference. Black-white difference you see. Can't learn if you're not in school. Excessive exclusionary discipline increases the likelihood that students will be retained in a grade, that they'll drop out of school, that they'll be placed in a juvenile justice system. So the overuse of suspension and expulsion is counterproductive. Zero tolerance, one-strike punishment adversely affects students of color. We're just going to get tough. Well, you get tough, and it disproportionately disadvantages students of color. Now, there's a multiple of reasons why there's this difference in discipline. All right, it could be implicit bias, social, economic, or demographic factors, healthcare. It's beyond this lecture. I just want to point out what is. Let's take a look at policing and lack of counselors. School resource officers, security guards, are not highly effective. There's no research to show that they reduce school violence or reduce school shootings. Law enforcement and arrests are often used for non-criminal behaviors that used to be handled by administration. They now have the security guard do. Black students represent 16% of the student population, yet 27% of referrals to law enforcement and 31% of school arrests. All right, less, more. While white students represent 51% of the school population, 41% of referrals, and 39% of school arrests. More, less. Less, more, less. That's problematic. Students with disabilities, as represented by IDEA, represent 12% of the population, yet 28% of students arrested are referred to law enforcement. Now, many security guards, school resource officers, have little or no training in working with youth and less training in working with students with disabilities, including students with mental health issues. In 2015-16, sworn law enforcement officer, cops, physically or mechanically restrained 86,000 students. 71% of these were students with disability, even though students with disabilities represent only 12% of the population. You see this intersectionality of race and disability discrest. Now, the lack of school counselors. 1.6 million students attend a school with a sworn law enforcement officer, but no school counselor. Where are you putting your money? Are you going to wrest your way to better behavior? In schools, there are 27 security guards, 27 schools with security guards, but only 23,000 with social workers, a difference of 4,000. Latinx, Asian, and Black students more likely than white students to attend a school with a sworn law enforcement officer but no counselor. Schools with high poverty rates have the highest percentage of sworn law enforcement officers on campus. Why is this important? Because students who attend a school with a security guard are 5 times more likely to be criminally charged or have disorderly conduct versus students in schools with no security guards. All right? Total arrests without security guards, with security guards. School counselors, it has been shown, improve school safety and increases school achievement. That's where we should put our resources. As well, students facing crises or emotional distress incidents, they need mental health school counselors and mental health professionals, not law enforcement, not security guards. Racism in special ed world, school to prison pipeline.